Good afternoon. Calling to order the Spokane City Council briefing session for today. Madam Clerk, would you go ahead and call the roll?
Council President Beggs.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Present.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Present.
Councilmember Mumm.
Here.
Councilmember Stratton.
Here.
Councilmember Wilkerson.
Present.
Let the record reflect that all council members are present.
All right, Mr. Ormsby, I'll turn it over to you for briefing the advanced agenda for October 25th.
Thank you, Council President and members of the Council. This is the advanced briefing for the October 25th City Council meeting. The first item is a proposed contract amendment regarding the on-call sewer model support project, and Beryl Fredrickson is here to brief on this item.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for hearing me today. ICM is currently working on the calibration after the sewer network model extension, in addition to key capacity analysis. And we are seeking out an additional funding to ensure that the sewer model will have the ability to be used for the future analysis and capacity analysis. We have an additional request of $250,000 with a contract to end in December 2022. Do you have any questions for me?
I'm not seeing any, Beryl. Thank you for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Our next item is a long-discussed project, the Hatch Bridge deck replacement, and Dan Bowler from Engineering Services is here to present this item. Dan?
Good afternoon. Item 2 is proposed low bid contract for the Hatch Bridge deck replacement with Halmy Construction of Spokane for $1,931,822, to which we propose to set aside a 10% administrative reserve. This project replaces the deck on the Hatch Road Bridge. The low bid from Halmy was approximately $88,000, or about 4% below the engineer's estimate. 2 other bids were received. This work will be done next year and will involve a fairly lengthy detour north to I-90. This project is mostly paid for with federal grant funding.
Councilwoman Kinnear.
Thanks, Dan. Can you tell us what the apprentice set-aside is? I know it has to be 15. Is it up to that? And if so, which types of skill sets are there? So is it labor? Is it welding? What is it?
On federally funded projects, they do not allow the city's apprentice specs. So on all federally funded projects, we're required to delete it as a condition of funding.
That's too bad. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Dan? Well, thank you, Dan. The next 2 items I will take for Sam Fagiano in our office, and they're both related to the litigation, the water rate litigation, and one is for the West Terrace suit, and the other is for the Durgan suit, which is the class action suit, and we're recommending that the contracts be increased by a total of $75,000. And discovery is starting to heat up again, and we want to make sure that we've got sufficient money to cover our expenses when they're incurred. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Councilwoman Mumm.
Just checking in on the West Terrace one. Are they currently paying for water now?
They're in. Good question. They have been paying, but they've been consistently paying less than the bill. So we are in the process of preparing to argue a motion to either require them to pay in full or to increase the bond that the court has previously had in place. So that motion, they're working with the court to schedule that. We hope would be in the next couple weeks. It was scheduled once before and then struck because something came up on the judge's calendar. So we are trying to do what we can to pursue that, and it's getting to be a pretty hefty amount owing. I mean, it's over $100,000 now. But the good news is we do have probably $65,000 of that in a bond. which is sitting with the court. The city doesn't have access to it, but we've got a bond. So once the court says the money's owed, we'll get the money.
And if the city prevails, are attorney fees then refunded back to us?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on these items? Okay, next we have 2 recommendations to the Spokane Register of Historic Places, and Megan Duval, our Historic Preservation Officer, is here to present these items.
I am. Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen. And I will give you my quick rundown, as I always do at the beginning. The Spokane Register of Historic Places is our local program. It's voluntary, does require the consent of the owner before we list a property. We actually protect these historic resources through the management agreement that you're looking at today. Design review happens when a building permit is sought for these properties, and this is how we offer incentives to our historic property owners when they significantly improve them. Okay, come on, let me move forward. There we go. To be eligible, generally 50 years of age or older, and I will give you a little teaser for next month. We might have one that's just a hair under 50 years because it's a mid-century modern property that you might be excited to hear about. So, and it has to meet one of the criteria that we have in our municipal code. So we can list buildings, sites, districts, structures, or objects. Category A hits broad patterns of Spokane's history. Category B is a relationship to significant people. Category C is our most popular. It's architecture, design, and construction. Category D deals with prehistory or archaeology. And category E is our cultural heritage, our newest criteria that we have. So let me get to these 2 great properties that we have for you today. So the Framingham building was built in 1910. The historically significant Framingham building at 1722 East Sprague Avenue is a relatively intact example of a modest 2-story brick commercial building. The building is prominently sited at the southwest corner of East Sprague Avenue and South Pittsburgh Street. Shout out to Councilmember Wilkerson for East Central. The Framingham building meets the Spokane Register of Historic Places Category A as a property that is associated with events that have made a significant contribution to the broad patterns of the history of Spokane. This property is associated with the themes of both community planning as well as commercial and industrial building expansion along East Sprague Avenue in the first decades of the 1900s. The building was constructed during the city's most significant period of population growth, which was from 1900 to 1910, when the city's population exploded from 37,000 people to 105,000 people, to house working class people who flocked to Spokane to seek employment in growing industries. When it was built, the second floor of the Framingham building was interchangeably called the Framingham Hotel and the Framingham Apartments. An enclosed staircase opened from an exterior front entrance door on the building's center north facade. Single sleeping rooms were located along the west and south sides of the building and have been recently rehabbed into offices. You can see some there just to the north of the staircase. In contrast, the north facade and east side of the building were finished with a series of 2-room apartments called the Framingham Apartments. The Framingham was one of the first buildings to offer multi-room apartments along East Sprague Avenue in East Central Spokane, as opposed to just the single-room occupancy hotels. The building was developed by Spokane druggist Charles McNabb, who leased the building to various tenants. One of his longtime tenants, the Barrett Mattress and Furniture Upholstery Manufacturing Company, was located in the Framingham building for more than 33 years, from 1914 to the end of 1947, which was the year of Barrett's death and subsequent closure of his manufacturing business. I just wanted to show you a couple of the floor pictures of this building so you can see the significant change that's happened over the last couple of years. This is, you might remember, Vien Dong, Great Pho. The building wasn't in the best shape at that time. This is what that upstairs looked like in the before pictures. Very colorful, but I just think it's just such a vastly different building at this point. The Framingham building retains good integrity and location design materials, workmanship, and association to convey its historic identity as a commercial building with retail storefronts on the first floor and housing, including multi-room apartments on the second floor. Obviously, those are offices now. It was reviewed by the Spokane Historic Landmarks Commission on September 22nd, and they have recommended that it's eligible for listing on the Spokane Register of Historic Places under Category A. So I'm moving on. Our second building is the Armour Building at 123 South Wall Street. You might recognize this as the former Magic Lantern and Europa. Built in 1902, 123 South Wall Street between First Avenue and the elevated railroad viaduct. This building is a typical example of a railroad corridor warehouse constructed during the city's most significant period of growth, 1900 to 1910, and expanded at the same time at the time of construction of the railroad viaduct, which was in 1916. The Armour Building meets the Spokane Register of Historic Places Category A as a property that's associated with events that have made a significant contribution to the broad patterns of history of Spokane under the theme of commerce and industry. First, as a meat processing and warehouse facility built and occupied by Armour and Company between 1902 and 1924. Second, as the original electrical equipment manufacturing building for Columbia Electric, which was a prominent Spokane manufacturing company. And third, as the Atrium, a collection of unique shops, restaurants, and Magic Lantern movie theater, owned and designed by one of Spokane's notable mid-century architects, Kenneth Brooks. The Armour Building meets Spokane Register of Historic Places Category C as a property that embodies the distinctive characteristics of a type and period of construction. The commercial vernacular brick warehouses throughout Spokane, like the Armour Building, are working-class structures that were designed for warehousing and have the structural stability to perform in this function. They have a utilitarian aesthetic and are simple in material, form, and detailing. The Armour Warehouse retains much of its original character as a railroad warehouse and the adjacent backdrop of the elevated Northern Pacific Railway viaduct. The Spokane Historic Landmarks Commission reviewed the nomination on September 22nd and recommends that it's eligible for listing on the Spokane Register of Historic Places under categories A and C. And that concludes those reports.
Any questions for Megan?
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Sure.
The next category of items on the agenda relate to MFTE housing exemption projects and include conditional agreements. And Terry Stripes is here to brief these three items.
Council members, Council President, thank you for the opportunity. These three projects were on your urban experience consent agenda, so they may be familiar for you. If it is okay with you, I would like to do a short presentation on the three projects, and I'll just run them all together. Okay? Let me share my screen then. So with multifamily property tax exemption, this tool that is enabled by the state is for us to encourage more multifamily housing opportunities within the city limits. It is to help us stimulate the construction of new multifamily housing and the rehabilitation of existing and vacant and underutilized buildings. It is to increase the supply of mixed income multifamily housing opportunities within the city. It helps us accomplish our planning goals that are defined by the Growth Management Act and also in the city's comprehensive plan. This incentive helps us promote community development, neighborhood revitalization, and the availability of affordable housing. This incentive helps us preserve and protect existing buildings, much like those historic structures that Megan was just talking about, and also special areas within the city. The tool is also to encourage additional housing and that is in areas consistent with planning for public transportation. The first project I'm going to talk to you about is NoDo Spokane, aka Normandy. Everybody knows the city's ops site that we sold. This developer is contemplating 256 new units. Construction costs will be about $38 million. He is going to attempt for the 12-year program to meet the affordability requirements at the end of construction. It is estimated that if he accomplishes that, we would have a city forgone tax revenue of approximately $134,000 a year, which is about $522 a unit, for a total term during the 12-year period of $1.6 million. This is located in the Emerson Garfield neighborhood. If you're not familiar with where our Normandy ops site was, this is North Central High School, kitty corner from it. This is zoned for OR, which is office retail, and it does allow zoning in that area. Here's a little site plan for you. He's planning 9 buildings on that site, all of the buildings facing the street with parking tucked in behind. The second project is also with the same developer, and that is NoDo Spokane, but it is located on their Cento site, which is across the street. This is 24 units. Construction costs are going to be about $3.6 million. Again, the intent is still to meet the criteria for providing income and rent restrictions to meet the 20% set aside for the 12-year multifamily tax exemption. Estimated foregone taxes for the city is about $12.5 thousand per year, $522 per unit, and for the term it would be about $154,000, and I accidentally have an M there for million. That's incorrect. This is also Emerson Garfield neighborhood. Also, zoning is office retail, which allows residential. The third project, here's the site plan. Here's across the street from the large Normandy site, but one building in this plan with parking here. The other property is Broadway Apartments. Here, just to get your bearings a little bit, this over here to the east is the county courthouse. This is the vacant lot here on Broadway that we're looking at. The proposal is between 20 and 22 units, construction costs of $2.8 million, 12-year exemption again, going to have those rent and income restrictions so that they can qualify the project. Estimated foregone taxes, about $11,490 a year, $522 a unit. And for the total term of 12 years, it would be about $137,878. This is West Central neighborhood, and this is zoned office, which also allows residential. And this is the site plan for this one. Would you happen to have any questions?
Councilwoman Mom?
Yeah, Terry, great. So exciting that all this is in Northwest District.
It is.
It's wonderful and in great areas. I'm just wondering if perhaps we've made a bridge with the neighborhood, both of the neighborhoods on these, in particular the West Central neighborhood, because they might be able to use some TIF dollars to do street improvements at the same time to enhance whatever the developer is being required to do. In particular, ADA improvements, sidewalk width, et cetera. I don't know if you've had that opportunity yet.
I have not, but what I will do, like what I did with the Millennium that we talked about last month, is after council has moved this forward and I communicate with the developer, I'll connect them with the correct neighborhoods so that they can proceed with that outreach. And the last time, I also asked them to reach out to you and Council Member Stratton to help bridge those introductions. Is that okay this time?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And Terry, I would also say that we can talk to Kevin Freebot, because he has the committee, the West Central TIF committee that meets monthly, and they look at projects for those funds. So that would be a good connection as well, and I'm happy to help make those.
It may be outside of the West Quadrant TIF boundaries. I'll have to double check that because it's
Pretty sure it's in it because
Pretty
it goes
sure?
all the way over to Monroe, my recollection, and then it goes up Monroe
Yeah.
on Broadway. But we'll take a look at the map and find
The
out.
Broadway one. The Broadway one. I'm sorry. I was thinking of Normandy.
I was thinking Broadway, and that's a group of folks from Emerson Garfield, West Central, and they meet monthly with Kevin Freebot to look at projects and how much money's in the TIF and all of that.
I'll make certain I make that connection with the developer too.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Terry? Well, Terry, thanks for the presentation. The next two items are the typical placeholder items. The first is the report of the mayor, both on pending claims and payments for warrants for the city, parks, and library. And then the second is placeholder for payroll claims. All of those blanks will be filled in prior to next week's meeting. And then finally, we have a placeholder for the approval of city council meeting minutes, and that too will be filled in prior to next week's meeting. Then we go to the legislative agenda, and the first item on the legislative agenda are special budget ordinances, and the first proposed special budget ordinance, I think Phil Tennick, the retirement director, briefed you on at the committee meeting this afternoon. And I don't see Phil on the phone, but I presume if anyone had questions, you raised them at the committee level. But if you have other issues or questions, please let me know and I'll get Phil in contact with you. Then next we have proposed resolutions and final ordinances. And the first is a resolution dealing with school zone speed schedule, and Inga Note is here to present this item.
Tell me, that used to be on the agenda?
It was on the draft agenda, but it got pulled. It was asked to be
Okay, so this is a resolution that I brought to committee a couple weeks ago, just to make some adjustments to school speed limits. We have a schedule that was adopted a couple of years ago, and it has quite a few places that need to be updated. In particular, we've got new middle schools coming on, and we have a new school zone for Gonzaga Prep. And then we have several places where we've installed the flashing beacons where the actual location didn't quite match the boundary of where the school zone had been codified before. And so we're just correcting those so that they match. The prior version of this that I brought forward also included the park zones. And after meeting with Councilmember Kinnear after the PIES committee, we're holding off on that for now because it needs some further discussion, and just going to push through with the school zones and get these done. So this is what the school zone speed limit schedule looks like. It's in your packet. And just briefly, I'll share the schools where we're adding the new zones. We've got the Denny Yasuhara Middle School. The next one is Pauline Flett, which is in the northwest side of town. We'll be adding a new one for Sacagawea on the west side. And then the new zone for Gonzaga Prep. And that's it. Any questions for me on that?
Not seeing any. Thank you so much, Inga, for being here this afternoon.
Thank you.
The next item deals with adopting the Sustainability Action Plan, and Kara Odegaard from Council staff is here to brief this item. Actually, Council President, did you want to step in? The Council's discussed this a fair amount, so maybe you don't need to, but.
Yeah, so we have basically it'd be a resolution adopting the current draft plan, and we are awaiting some commentary from the administration. We presented to their cabinet a couple weeks ago, so there may be a couple other changes, and I think I heard Councilmember Cathcart might have some suggestions as well, so if anyone else has any, let us know, but it's set for Monday, and it's posted online and has been for a long time.
The next item is a resolution approving the installation of security cameras at the new outdoor storage area up on North Foothills Drive. I think Lauren Searle briefed this at the committee meeting last week.
That's not on
And
here.
if there are any questions or additional comments or concerns, please don't hesitate to let me know, and I'll make sure that we get Lauren from the Water Department in touch with you. Then
Mr.
the next
Orm,
item is
Mike?
a resolution. Yes.
I just have two, work for people who are keeping score, that one that you just mentioned isn't on the current version. It was pulled off. And then also that special budget ordinance. They were on the drafts, but then they were both requested to be pulled off. So just in case people are,
Okay.
just so you know.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I guess I need to go get the brand new draft every Monday afternoon, so I'll
Yeah.
do that in the
All right.
future. Thanks, Council President.
Thanks.
The next item is another item that was briefed by Phil, and it has to do with changing the contribution rates for the CSRS pension plan. And
Yeah.
Phil did brief that this afternoon, so I suspect any questions council members had were dealt with then.
That one was withdrawn as well. So the next one we have
Okay.
on our list is the settlement for Kessler. The next one.
Is the settlement for what? Because I don't have them.
Oh, approving the settlement of Stephen Kessler for $60,000.
Oh, okay. Okay, and I guess okay, and that's one for me to brief, but I don't have that on my agenda. So, yes, there are two proposed settlements that we briefed the council in executive session either last week or the week before that were potential resolutions for sidewalk injury cases. And so these resolutions are to approve those settlements, and will hopefully be voted on at the meeting next week.
All right.
So I guess, Council President, if there are other resolutions,
We're-
I unfortunately don't have them.
We're the first reading of ordinances now.
Okay, good. I have those.
All right.
So the first one, the CSRS amendment was apparently withdrawn. But the next one is a Park and Advisory Committee recommendation for amending certain Spokane Municipal Code sections, and Justin Ray is here to brief that.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Council. So this ordinance brings the Parking Advisory Committee into alignment with other city committees by relocating the Parking Advisory Committee under Title 04, Administrative Agencies and Procedures, versus being under Finance, which is 07. It creates sections similar to other committees, and these changes were recommended for council approval by the Parking Advisory Committee on April 27th, 2021. Any questions?
Go ahead.
Councilmember Cathcart?
Yeah, just wondering, does this, I guess, really do much more than just kind of clean up in the code?
No, it just moves it really from 07 to 04.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Justin,
Council President?
I noticed a section where it says the city council desires to set aside a reserve fund of $500,000 and then up to 10% for emergency projects. And I don't recall that conversation, so I don't know if.
It should be in the current code, actually, the 500,000.
Okay, so it's already in the code? It's just,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Mhm.
It looked like it was underlined, but maybe it was just, that was moving it as well. So, okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any
Okay,
other
and
questions?
the next item is a first reading ordinance as well, proposing an amendment to the River Village PUD, and Tammy Palmquist is here to brief that item.
So, hi, Tammy from Current Planning. I put this on the consent for committee. There were no questions asked, but this is a type 3 land use application that was processed by the city hearing examiner to remove a portion of the River Point Village condominium from the overall PUD overlay. So this would be an ordinance changing the official zoning map to remove that parcel from the PUD overlay. I will try and answer as many questions as possible. This was processed by Donna DeBee, who is out on maternity leave right now.
Councilwoman Mum.
Hi, I think this is probably just fine, but sometimes with PUDs, they have like a per unit or they do clustering per unit, and then they have to have open space. And I know there's a lot of open space going in near here, so I just wanted to make sure that if a unit's taken out, were there any allowances made when the PUD went in that needs to be adjusted?
Very good question. When this PUD was approved, this site, which is currently just grass right now, was actually approved for additional units. There was a building and parking proposed on this site that were never constructed. So it is not removing any necessary calculations or amenities that were required per the PUD. Great question, though.
Any other questions for Tammy? Okay, thank you very much, Tammy.
Thank you.
Next, we have special considerations, and there's a series of hearings that the council has heard about before, but the first two relate to vacations, and Eldon Brown is here to speak to those and answer any questions that council may have. Eldon, you're on.
Good afternoon, Council. I'll see if I can share my screen here. Okay, this item addresses the vacation of Adams Street, which is from 3rd Avenue South to I-90, and then also the adjacent alley between Adams and Jefferson to the east, just north of the I-90 viaduct. Previously, about 3 years ago, we did vacate the west 20 feet of Adams Street as part of the construction of the Hope House, and that is a 75-foot wide right-of-way, right there where I got my hand going back and forth. So we have 55 feet of that left to actually vacate. We do have sewers in that roadway. We have several sewers also in that alley, along with various fiber entities in here that want to control access also into this alley, or I should say want access. So the applicants are really requesting to vacate the roadway and the alley, and they're really to control access and aid and provide security to their adjacent facilities, and there's the primary purpose of this vacation. And so we are recommending approval of this, subject to, like you say, there's various easements that are being requested by the utility purveyors in the 55 feet that's still remaining in Adams and in the alley in there. So we would recommend approval subject to easements being established, and they are for various utilities. In the street, we have WSDOT, City of Spokane, Zayo Communications, and Verizon. In the alley, we have WSDOT, CenturyLink, and the City of Spokane, and Vista in there with utilities that want to maintain access. So we had a couple of utility purveyors weren't necessarily in favor of this vacation, but I think as long as we can maintain access to their utilities in there, why we can work out any issues that people may have. It is recommended by the applicants that it be a no-cost vacation. We did tabulate what the fee would have been if it's to be charged. It was roughly $347,000 would be the cost of trying to vacate these two roadways in there. So anyway, that's primarily what we're trying to do is vacate these right-of-ways. Yeah, it's recommended to be a no-cost vacation, and we would recommend approval subject to conditions. And one other condition I forgot to mention here. Along the west side of Adams Street, there's existing parking there today. And for the automotive business along that east side to really remain viable, there needs to be an agreement between the adjoining Hope House and Silver Star Automotive on just how they're going to address the or the existing parking scenario that's there today, because the city of Spokane will no longer be patrolling this situation when the roadway is vacated. So we just, as part of the recommended conditions, we want an agreement worked out between the adjoining property owners to addressing that before we would do the final reading of the vacation. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
Thank you, Eldon.
Thank you.
The next item is the final reading of an ordinance that was just recently briefed, but it relates to stormwater facilities, and Trey George had previously briefed that, but is here if anyone has any questions or additional issues they'd like to raise. Okay, the next two items, Amanda Beck just recently briefed, and one relates to, well, I think they both relate to the floodplain, but anyway, Amanda is also here if any council members have any issues or questions to discuss. Okay, not seeing any, I would move to the final item, and that is the public hearing before City Council for revenue sources for the 2022 budget. And Paul and Josie is also with us today as well. And Paul, I don't know if you have anything to add to your previous briefings. No, he doesn't. So, Council President, that concludes the briefing for the advanced agenda for next week.
All right, is there a motion to adopt the advanced agenda for October 25th?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions? All right, the advanced agenda is approved. That brings us to this evening's agenda. And before we go through the consent agenda, just checking if there are any requests for deferrals or substitutions. I saw various emails today. My first question is on the ordinance 36064, historic reuse. And what are we doing on that? Councilmember Wilkerson.
Councilmember President, in the spirit of cooperation, we will be deferring that till January 2022.
All right, so you want to bring a motion to defer it to a date certain? Let's see.
Well, I got to get the calendar out now.
I'll get, it's, how about the 10th or the 24th?
Let's do the 24th.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering what we will get back in January that we're not able to get now. What's the holdup, I guess?
Administrator Johnny Perkins said with all the things that need to be done, they really did not have the capacity and time to do the planning that goes with this, with everything else they got going on. So it was their request for the delay. So again, in the spirit of collaboration, I agreed to push it out to January.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All right. Motion is to defer this ordinance until January 24th. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? All right, that's deferred. Next up, subject of some emails, was the Resolution 69 with the Way Out shelter funding. I don't know if there are any requests. Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, so I guess I'm maybe just a little confused on one bit, and that's, so the administration's been working on that operating agreement piece that that includes the most current draft anyway includes some good neighbor protocols, and I'm trying to figure out, has that been submitted in any way to be considered attached to the Way Out shelter? It is not.
No, I don't believe so. It's that there's the
No,
language that says there has to be a signed agreement before any funding can happen, but there's no reference to a specific document.
Correct. So I had submitted to council a couple of amendments that are based on that document. But if that document, I guess, is not circulating, do we need to suspend the rules in order to make an amendment at this point in time?
To the resolution?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess I'll start by moving that we suspend the rules.
Okay. So there's-
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion to suspend the rules for purposes of amending the resolution language. And there's a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of suspending the rules indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, and any opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Okay. Councilmember Wilkerson? Yeah.
I just have a comment. So last week we had suspended the rules and amended that there's a requirement for a good neighbor agreement for the funding to be allocated.
Right.
If there is no agreement, and Mr. Ormsby can weigh on the nuance of this, or Mr. Perkins, that there was trying to be put into the operating agreement. So can somebody give me an update on where that's at?
Before we get to your question,
Okay.
I just want to clarify on the suspending the rules. I couldn't get a count by just voice. So if you wanted to suspend the rules, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So the rules are suspended, and now Councilmember Wilkerson's point of information, wondering where. I'm sorry, if you could restate that. Where we're at with the Good Neighbor Agreement?
Where we're at with the good neighbor? Well, there's a little bit of confusion because our substituted amendment was requiring that there be a good neighbor agreement in place before any funds were released.
Right.
Then, upon further administration activities, I guess, for lack of a better word, could somebody tell me where that's at?
So right now, the language is the city can't provide any of this funding unless that agreement is signed in the current language. But are you
Correct.
asking that, or are you asking where we're at with the negotiations on the Good Neighbor Agreement?
I'm asking where we are at the negotiations
Okay.
on the good neighbor
Got it.
agreement from the administration.
Got it. All right.
Mr. Ormsby's been trying to get in there.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to make sure that the question is on the table. So there will not be a proposed good neighbor agreement. The Salvation Army does not sign those, but what they did agree is that they would agree to inclusion of good neighbor principles in the operating agreement. So the county forwarded to us an operating agreement mid to late last week, which I worked on this weekend. And the draft of the Good Neighbor Agreement, the draft of the operating agreement includes a provision with good neighbor protocols included within the agreement. It's not what, to be fair, it's not what Council members Cathcart and Stratton have wanted, but it's included, and we are working on it. I'm hoping to turn the agreement back around with some other additions that our staff would like to see in it tomorrow, to go back to the county, Salvation Army, and the city of Spokane Valley, because we have a number of different players. So, and the draft of the agreement thus far contains the Good Neighbor Protocol that we asked the county and the Salvation Army to consider. The county has accepted it. Salvation Army has not gotten back because we made some additional changes, but they've accepted the concept. So that's where we are.
But I also think that once Councilmember Cathcart reads his amendment, that might answer some questions as well.
Let me just clarify whether Councilmember Wilkerson's questions are answered
Mute,
yet.
Brian.
No.
We can't hear you.
I want to defer to Councilmember Wilkerson to follow up on her question before we move to Councilmember Kinnear.
And this is for Councilmember Kinnear and for everyone. So what Mr. Ormsby just said, does that meet the spirit of the substituted resolution to release the funding for the Way Out shelter? Councilman Kinnear, do you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to Mr. Ormsley. It meets my spirit, yes.
Yes.
I mean, it's semantics. We're talking protocol versus agreement, and really the difference is negligible, and it meets the spirit of what I was intending to do.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? And then Councilmember Cathcart, I think, has a proposed amendment to the resolution. Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess speaking for me, I don't think the Good Neighbor protocols as they're being referred to in the document meets what I would consider a good neighbor agreement. And I guess we can argue what an agreement is versus protocols and all that. But actually my suggestion is, I think, pretty simple. And since the Good Neighbor protocols have not been adopted into the document, my suggestion is going to be to take one little sliver of that and insert that in, and then remove the provision that we added last week and allow this to go forward with my one caveat that I'll read to you. And I'll go into why I think this makes sense. But let me pull it up here. So in the operating document that the administration has circulated, and I apologize, I assumed it was circulated to everybody. The Salvation Army commented last week that they had shared it with elected officials, so I assumed it went out. But 4.2.3.1 of that document has a section that talks about how the lower portion of the building is to be used. And so my suggestion is that we take that one provision, we include it into the operating document, or I guess I should say my motion is to take that provision, include it in the operating document, and it would read as, quote, the lower portion of 55 West Mission will only be used for on-site isolation, quarantine purposes, or for the expansion of bridge housing and related services, and will not be used for low barrier or emergency sheltering, end quote. And I think if we include that accomplishes the concerns of the neighborhood, the folks that are in the immediate vicinity. It does not mix incompatible uses with the building. I think we want to see bridge housing be extremely successful and a model for kind of the next phase of how we're going to address homelessness. And to mix populations is a really bad idea. And I think that this is a way that we can see this through, see this be successful, protect the neighborhood, put people at ease, and move forward. And if there's ever a need to amend the operating agreement, they could come back to council and try to do that. But it is us that's helping to fund this. And so I think that we have the ability to have a say into the use that's going to go on there.
Before I get to you, Councilmember Stratton, I just had so the operating agreement is not before us right now, so I'm just trying to get a better handle on your amendment. Are you essentially saying you want to put in the resolution that the language you quoted needs to be in the operating agreement? That's your motion?
That would be my motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Councilmember Stratton.
And I would just say, in talking with the neighborhood, I think this is, or members of the neighborhood, this is pretty close. We can get there with this for now. They have absolutely no problem with the bridge housing. The Salvation Army did go to the Emerson Garfield Neighborhood Council last week, and I would say the only unfortunate situation that we continue to deal with is that this neighborhood has never really been included in a lot of these discussions, and so there's still a little bit of sensitivity around that. I've heard over and over that the Salvation Army owns the building and they could do whatever they want with it. And I guess what I'm thinking here is that that's true, they own the building, but we don't have to contribute funding if their programs, if we believe their programs in businesses connecting in the neighborhood will be harmed. And if they don't plan on adopting, or if they don't plan on operating a seasonal warming shelter, then there shouldn't be any worries with this. This should at least get us to the point of moving forward. And that's what the the neighbors and the businesses would like to see.
So is that a second to Councilmember Cathcart's motion?
That is a second.
Okay, all right. All right, so the motion is that a condition of funding in the resolution includes language in the operating agreement as quoted by Councilmember Cathcart. Is there other commentary, questions on the motion? I'll go to...
I saw Kate up first.
I saw Councilmember Kinnear first, actually, but then I'll get to Councilmember Kinnear. Or are you...
I prefer, Councilmember Burke, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Council President, may I ask Councilmember Cathcart a clarifying question? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Councilmember Cathcart, you had said to not have mixed populations, and could you explain what you meant by that? I just want to make sure I'm on the same page.
Yeah, I guess my thinking is, and the concern is that, you've got folks that are in the upper levels of the facility who are, taking that next step out of homelessness, and they're addressing a lot of their needs and issues, and they're basically, it's a curated population of folks that are ready to move on. And I worry that by allowing the lower portion of the facility to be used as a lower barrier type facility, that those are folks that may not be ready to take that step, and they may not be in that same place as the folks upstairs. And you kind of mix those two populations, and I worry that it just creates negative incentives for folks and maybe holds them back. So that's the big concern that I have there.
Councilmember Mumm.
Are you done? Wait, I still have a question.
Oh,
Go, Laurie. I'll wait.
all right.
I wasn't sure if Councilmember Burke was finished. Okay, so my question is for Mr. Ormsby. Has there been any indication by Salvation Army that they were going to use the lower portion for low barrier?
No. In fact, that was never in their proposal or never in their plans. And I'm not exactly sure how that issue came up, but they made it clear that the contract they were entering into does not include the providing of funding for that. And I don't think they ever said they wouldn't do it, but that was not what they had in mind or what they had planned.
Councilmember Mumm.
Sure. My question is also for Mr. Ormsby. Had you gotten a sneak peek on this amendment, and if yes or no, what's your read on this in terms of the agreement, not just with Salvation Army, but there's other parties to this, right? So just wondering what the response would be.
No, I know about the issue because the Regional Health District did ask the Salvation Army to do this. I didn't actually see the language. So the Salvation Army is proposing it. I don't think either the city or the county are going to say no, that isn't an appropriate place to put an isolation facility. So, but I haven't heard feedback from the council. I haven't talked to the mayor about it. So I don't know. But I think the Salvation Army had not planned to have low barrier housing there. And when the Regional Health District made this request, Mr. Perkins may know, but I think it was only in like the last 10 days or so that they asked to be able to do this. So I can't imagine that there's going to be opposition to that, but I can't really speak for the council who would ultimately make that decision or for the county.
Councilmember Stratton.
Councilwoman Stratton.
I will remind people that although the Salvation Army now owns the building, but months ago, when this all started, and Councilmember Mumm, I think you'd remember this, there was no discussion of this programs continuing in the building, that we were using it as a temporary shelter. The neighborhood, although upset because they weren't included in the discussions and asked for their opinions, went along with it. But then if you remember last spring, the mayor announced that the bottom half and the basement would be used for temporary shelter. And so I think that's where we get caught up in this, is that that's the word that got out there, and now we're trying to help the neighborhood trust us again. And they don't trust that in a situation, and we've all been there, when the temperature falls to 30 below zero, And we need places quick for people because we have no plan in place. That what will happen is we're going to shove them all into this shelter, and then the distrust and the anger continues. So what Councilmember Cathcart and I are trying to do is to reestablish that relationship. Say this is what we need to see before we make an investment in this. Because there has been, truthfully, a lot of damage that has been done to the businesses and the people that live in that neighborhood. And it's going to be a while before they trust us again.
Any other commentary on the proposed motion? All right. Seeing Councilmember Wilkerson.
I'm sorry. And I know we're beating a dead horse, and we've been talking about this since July. And I certainly hear Councilmember Stratton. It's not just that neighborhood. It's many neighborhoods in the city where they feel that we have not, as an administration council, not kept our word going forward in many instances. So that's out there. My question to Mr. Ormsby, with this narrative that Councilmember Cathcart just suggested, do we have to get approval from our other partners? That'd be the county and Spokane Valley.
Yes, we do, because if this is in the operating agreement would be signed probably not by the Spokane Valley, because the county is the funnel for Spokane Valley's share of the money that would be used here. But yes, the county will have to agree, the Salvation Army would have to agree, and the city would have to agree, because it's a joint operating agreement between all the parties who are either operating or providing funding for the facility.
So therefore, I would be, I'm not supportive because the people that we are trying to help are being penalized for stuff that happened outside of their purview. And I want to protect that neighborhood, I do. But at what point do we move on? And if we're going to build trust, then why can't we keep our word? And Mr. Perkins, that be on your side of the house, that there is no low barrier shelter going into that location. So if the mayor has come to that conclusion, then we need to hear that from you. Please speak, Councilman President.
Yep.
That's okay.
Administrator Perkins, go ahead and answer to the best of your ability. Yeah.
Thank you, Council President. No, I can. I've been patiently waiting. I didn't want to speak out of turn or not be appropriate. This past summer, I held a community meeting out in that neighborhood over at the Ruby Hotel at the Ruby Hotel with over 35 community leaders, neighborhood representatives, as well as property owners near and around adjacent to the Way Out Shelter. I made it very clear on multiple occasions that the mayor and the administration do not support a low barrier shelter at the Way Out Shelter on 55 West Mission. Multiple times I stated the administration does not support that. So I want to reiterate it one more time. The mayor does not support low barrier shelters at the lower level of the Way Out Shelter. Thank you.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is I was at that meeting, and that is true. That is what the administration has stated. But the Salvation Army would not come out and state specifically that was their position. And every draft we've seen of language has always had a little caveat on there that they could change their minds. And so I just have to believe that they're just trying to leave themselves an opportunity, if funds were available down the road, to use that bottom level as this alternative purpose. And so I think this is just a protection to give the neighborhood some comfort in knowing that that's not the case.
Any other commentary?
You're on mute, Council President.
I muted myself before I started talking. Any other commentary? Councilmember Burke, were you raising your hand? I don't know. Okay. All right. So again, the motion is to amend the language of the resolution to, as a condition of funding, require the language quoted by Mr. Cathcart about an operating agreement, including a provision that while the city is funding, there will be no low barrier housing in the lower level. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so 2, 3. Okay, and those opposed to the amendment, nay. And raise your hand. I think I'm going to say nay. Okay. All right, so the amendment to the resolution fails. The current language that requires a good neighbor agreement is still in there. That. Okay. The last matter that...
Council President, just to be clear, somebody asked if protocol sufficed, and it does. So the neighbor agreement / protocol is fine.
Okay. And the other item that I saw some emails about amendments was Ordinance 36114, having to do with the city business registration fee that we discussed earlier today. The rules have already been suspended, so if Councilmember Cathcart, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I would make a motion that under, sorry, I don't have it, here it is, that under section 8020206, business registrations A, we strike beginning on July 1, 2022 through the word period, so basically striking the fee increase under A, and the same for section B, beginning on July 1, 2022 and ending with period, striking the fee increase under section B.
Okay. And that would essentially have the effect.
Second.
That's been moved and second, and as I understand, that would have the effect of leaving the...
Mute.
Thank you. If I understand it, so that's been that's been moved and seconded, and if I understand the effect, that would leave the business registration fee what it is currently indefinitely going forward. Councilmember Mom.
Yeah, I have a point of information. I just want to clarify that the previous one that had been circulated, which reduced fees for new businesses, that had already been substituted and passed and adopted by the council last week?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. I appreciate where this is coming from. However, without a fiscal note and the fact that it doesn't have a term ending, I'd like to stick with what I proposed because it's a 5-month window, which I think would really spur on new registrations. And if the mayor wants to propose hiking fees again next year, then the council can consider it at that time after we've kind of come out of the pandemic. So I kind of like the middle ground here. So I, at this time, won't support the new amendment proposal. Thank you.
Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, I would just say I think it makes sense that we are reducing fees for new businesses. We want to incentivize them to maybe take a risk and formulate something. But I just think that especially in the time that we're in right now, it just doesn't, even though I know it's a small amount, it just doesn't make a ton of sense to increase fees on our businesses that are continuing to struggle coming out of the pandemic. And so I would just hold off. And I think it's something that we come back next year and revisit.
Other comments on the amendment? Councilmember Wilkerson.
I'm only concerned because there is no end date on the substitution. So if Councilmember Cathcart would, if it's 1 year, I could look at that, but it would have to have some closure going forward. I would feel uncomfortable just leaving that wide open for, we don't know how long that would happen.
Councilman Wilkerson, if there's a friendly amendment you'd like to offer, I would be open.
Councilmember Wilkerson, do you want to, do you have a friendly amendment?
I would do a friendly amendment if it expires at December 31, 2022. So 1 year would be this window of time.
So you'd have to make it more positive. So right now it's $120, so you would have to change it to, it becomes, the 127 goes into effect on January 1, 2023. Otherwise, so it's not, there's not a temporary thing that's happening by his amendment. It's just keeping it the status quo. So you need to say what the new status quo would be January 1st, 2023.
So the new status quo effective January 2022, there would be no increase on business fees through December 31, 2022. Am I on your same page, or are you looking for a different narrative?
Well, what's undefined is what the new fee will be as of January 1st, 2023. There's nothing, because he's striking the language that sets the new specific fee, so that goes away. So then there's nothing there. So there needs to be language of setting what the new fee is.
So his is no fee. His is no fee. Is that correct?
No, his is no
Michael?
change. Or
No change,
he
okay.
removes the change, I should say.
Okay. So then it would be no change in fees.
That's the effect of his. He removes the language that makes a change, so there's just no change to it. The only change is that through June, new businesses get a 50% reduction. So.
Right. All of the above.
All right, Councilmember
Could I
Mumm.
offer?
Yeah.
Okay, well, so she's got a motion on the floor. Is that right?
Well, no, it's not a motion. She's grappling with a friendly
We're still working it out.
Okay. It might make sense to, any discounts would be for the entire calendar year of 2022. So my suggestion was to do it for new businesses only and defer the implementation until that mid-year date for the raise instead of having it going into effect at the beginning of the year, which was going to be, I think, February 1st. So if you wanted to bundle all this together and defer the mayor's proposed increases to business registrations until the end of 2022, we could do the same. I could make a motion to do that. And new business registrations would be 50% off through 2022 to make this simple. So I'm happy to make that. I guess, would that be amending Mr. Cathcart's?
Unless he accepts it. Oh.
Yeah,
Mr.
my
McClatchy?
motion is still on the table.
Your motion is still on the table, so this would be a friendly amendment you would need to accept.
And so for clarification, Councilwoman, you're saying deferral for a year and an extension of the 50% reduction for a year?
The adopted substitution was through the mid-year, 5 months. And so I'm happy to extend that for the entire year of 2022. We know that delta with the increase is 140,000. So we do have a fiscal note on that. So the impact was 100. We don't have that on the new business fees. We could have an approximate calculation and it just have an understanding. Hopefully there'd be more new businesses that would apply. So all three of those would go through 2022. I guess it's all two of those.
I would be accepting of that.
All right. So just to be, so I'm clear. So essentially what would happen is instead of July 1st, 2022, which is the current language for the new fee, that would go into effect January 1st, 2023. And the reduction for new businesses would go until January 1st, 2023. Okay.
And to be specific, this is under 08.02.0206 under Section A, Section B, and Section L, modifying the date to go through June 1st, 2023.
January 1st.
Excuse me, January 1st.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Councilmember Burke, you were the second. Do you accept that friendly amendment? Okay. And then I see Councilmember Kinnear.
The irony, I don't want it to escape anybody, but we're talking about the $7 that we're going to raise. we're talking about 0.019 cents per day. And we've spent already, 15 minutes on this, so I'm feeling a little bit bemused by this whole thing. It's not going to make or break anybody, so I'm glad to support you, Councilmember Mom, but I'm just thinking, wow, that our time is worth more than 0.013 per cent. So,
All right, Councilmember Wilkerson.
Last comment. It's not that significant, but I think as a council, it is a show of goodwill and support for our businesses. That's really the message I think we're trying to convey, is that we're glad you're here. We're going to, little bit though it is, we're willing to, just step into that space and be supportive.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the amendment indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions?
Nay.
One nay? Any abstentions? All right, passes 6-1. And we'll try to get some language out to people before the vote, just so it's crystal clear. All right. Those were all the notes I had from what I had seen from people. Ms. Pfister, if you'd like to read the consent agenda.
Okay. Reports, contracts, and claims. Number 1, setting a hearing for the citywide capital improvement program 2022 to 2027 on November 8, 2021. Number 2, setting the hearings for review of the 2022 proposed budget beginning November 8, 2021 and continuing thereafter at the regular council meetings through December 6, 2021. Number 3, setting a public hearing on possible revenue sources for the 2022 budget on October 25, 2021. Number 4, purchases from AAA Concrete Incorporated, Spokane, and Specialty Mobile Mix, Spokane Valley of the concrete mix on an as-needed basis to use for various concrete repair projects up to $70,000. B, Salt Distributors Incorporated, Spokane Valley of road salt on an as-needed basis, not to exceed $135,000 annually. C, Salt Distributors Incorporated, Spokane Valley of Ice Kicker utilizing state contract number 02714, not to exceed $100,000 annually. Number 5, contract with Transmap to perform pavement inspection work for the street department, not to exceed $138,000. Number 6, contract with Property Registration Champions LLC, doing business as Pro Champs, Melbourne, Florida, to establish and maintain an electronic foreclosure registry funded by annual per property registration fees, $150,000 revenue. Number 7, contract renewal number 2 of 4 with Rancom Corporation, Spokane Valley, for installation of radio and electrical equipment for fleet services from October 1, 2021 through September 30, 2022, using IRFP number 5153-20, $150,000. Number 8, contract renewal number 1 of 2 with Clean Energy, Newport Beach, California, for the maintenance and operation of the compressed natural gas fueling facility, $250,000 including tax. Number 9, report of the mayor of pending claims and payments of previously approved obligations, including those of Parks and Library, through October 8, 2021, total $8,187,092.38. With Parks and Library claims approved of the respective boards. Warrants excluding Parks and Library total $7,606,650.29. Number 10, City Council meeting minutes for October 4, October 7, and October 14, 2021.
All those in favor of the consent agenda items indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? All right, consent agenda is passed as read. That brings us to the end of our briefing session today. We'll see everyone back at 6 p.m. We're adjourned.
Just wait, Lori, now I can go. So if you want to get the stamp, then I can go get it.